Right now, we visit with GOP political strategist and co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. Doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Appreciate you joining us today. Very busy day for the 2016 field for the Republicans, as you have, it was announced, I guess, this morning, 3 candidates this week will officially toss their head into the ring. Mike Huckaby, Dr. Ben Carson, and Carly Fiorina will be running as well. Tell our listeners a little bit about these candidates that are jumping in, especially Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina, maybe, your second or third tier type candidates, but candidates that can, maybe shake up the race a little bit and get people talking.
Yeah, all 3 candidates are bringing different strengths to the table. Dr. Ben Carson is someone who's very impressive personally. He's been I believe it's a neuroscientist and a surgeon at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Maryland for a long time. Groundbreaking doctor, world-renowned surgeon, African-American, who came to prominence a couple of years ago when at the National Prayer Breakfast he sort of criticized Obamacare with the president sitting, just a few feet away, and it sort of launched him on this path where he's now, I think, authored 2 books, and is a very high-demand speaker and really has tremendous grassroots support. So, he's someone who's been traveling the country for 2 years, speaking to groups and building up, an email list. And I think he's now, as we speak, announcing for president in his hometown of Detroit. There's some serious organizational challenges for someone like that, but he does have really tremendous grassroots appeal. And he's a very unusual candidate, very articulate, has a great personal story. So, we'll see. Running for president is not easy, even if you're a experienced politician. For someone who's never worked in that way, it's a totally new and very challenging enterprise. Carly Fiorina is impressive in her own right. She was CEO of Hewlett Packard, which I think was a Fortune 20 a company. She kind of left in a blaze of glory, but was CEO there for a while and took it through a merger with Compaq. She's a female executive who started off as a secretary and worked her way up and really has kind of achieved the American dream. She ran for U.S. Senate in California, I believe it was in 2010, in a really tough state. Ran a fairly good race, but lost by 8 or 10 points. But she's very articulate, very smart, very tough, and has been, I think, probably the most effective sort of attack dog when it comes to Hillary Clinton in the Republican field. She's able to attack Hillary in a way our other candidates aren't. So, neither one's going to be the nominee, but I think they both have a chance to gain some traction, gain some attention, and they both bring a lot to the field, and we'll see whether they're able to raise significant resources and put serious campaigns together.
What do we know about Carly Fiorina politically? What are her views on a lot of the issues? I think, those who know about her know just how great she is at business. But what about her political side?
Yeah, she's a solid conservative. She's on the board of the American Conservative Union, ACU, which puts on the CPAC conference. She ran an unabashedly pro-life campaign in California, which is hard to do. Typically you try to run sort of pro-choice campaigns as Republicans in California. I don't think we know her view on every issue, but she's been a really solid conservative. I think she'll approach this campaign primarily from an economic conservative standpoint, as someone who really understands the global economy, understands the power of the free market and the free enterprise system, believes in low taxes and low regulation, and has seen it firsthand in a way that a lot of Republican elected officials maybe haven't. We'll see, but she's going to run as a conservative. There's no question about that. I don't know where she is on some of the trickier issues like ethanol or the Export-Import Bank. Some of these sort of economic issues that maybe some conservative candidates aren't solid on. My guess is she'd be solid. She's against crony capitalism. She's against big government. I think she's a pretty solid conservative, but we'll have to see what she puts out there.
Is she somebody? And you already mentioned that neither of these candidates are going to win the nomination. Is she somebody who would be interesting as a VP type candidate?
Potentially, I don't think she'll probably be the vice presidential candidate, but I do think she'll be on the list. And I think if we have a Republican win the White House, she's a very good chance to be in the cabinet, perhaps as a Commerce Secretary or even Treasury Secretary. But it's going to be a question of how important is it that we have a female on the ticket. And if it's determined that it is very, very important, she's not the only choice, but she's one of a very small number of choices. We have the governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, who's very impressive. The governor of New Mexico, Susana Martinez, I think would be a good choice. Senator Kelly Ayotte, the former Attorney General of New Hampshire, who's a U.S. Senator now, who's up for re-election this cycle, is also be very impressive. I think those three females will be very seriously considered, in addition to perhaps Carly Fiorina, but she's going to have to acquit herself well on the campaign trail. That said, though, Chad, she's done a lot of national press over the last couple of years, and of course she did a lot of it when she was CEO of that major company, and so she's very, very articulate. She's used to answering tough questions, and so she's going to be impressive. And I think she's probably going to have a couple of debates where she does very, very well, gets a lot of attention.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, also co-founder, mustreadtexas.com. Under 30 days left down in Austin for the Texas legislature, and they still have a lot to do, including getting a budget together, including taking a look at vouchers. And let's not forget the gun bills that are out there. Do they have time to get to the major issues for Governor Abbott, the major issues for Dan Patrick, and the major issues for Joe Straus, or are we going to lose a few things here, you think?
It's a good question, and my biweekly column, the Austin American Statesman, this morning takes on that very subject. The biggest factor right now is time. You've got 25, 26 days left. Every day bills are dying. In terms of the major issues, you're right. It's budget and tax cuts. The budget's being worked out now. The conference committee, the sides aren't that far apart. I think the biggest difference is the level of border security spending. On the tax cut issue, I'm not sure that I see a real easy path. You have, the Senate and Lieutenant Governor Patrick want to pass a property tax cut. The House wants to pass a sales tax cut. Both sides are pretty dug in and there's a lot of unanimity on both sides. And Governor Abbott hasn't at least publicly weighed in on which side he prefers. But on the other issues, you're right. There's a long list of things that have either passed one body but not the other, or haven't passed either body yet but have a lot of momentum. The gun bills, campus carry and open carry, my guess is they both do pass both houses and the governor signs them. There's a preemption bill for oil and gas operations, for fracking, that I think will pass both houses and the governor will sign. Other than that, on these other issues, though, Chad, I'm not sure they're going to be able to get through both houses and get signed by the governor. Unfortunately, that includes school choice, which I really wished would become law, and we're going to have to push forward in the next 2 years as well.
Politically speaking, when you look at this, and you had Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who, when he was campaigning, he talked about how we're going to get these issues through, we're going to get these issues taken care of. You had a lot of other Republicans running on that we're going to get some of these conservative issues passed, and I know they've campaigned on that before, and it hasn't happened yet. But when the Senate was elected and viewed as a more conservative Senate, I think there was more hope out there that some of these issues would get through, at least at a better pace than what it has. How does this impact maybe the politics of Dan Patrick and others going forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, I think the Senate has passed a number of the priorities of, let's say, grassroots conservatives. They haven't passed all of them, but they've passed a number of them. And obviously, getting rid of the two-thirds rule made a big difference. It is going to make a big difference for lots of sessions to come. The question is going to be, does the Senate essentially run against the House in the primaries in next March? Do they go after incumbent Republicans who aren't on board on some of these sort of grassroots issues like sanctuary cities and ending in-state tuition, and school choice and other issues, sanctuary cities, I believe, has passed the Senate, but I believe the in-state tuition bill hasn't, because you have two Republican senators who have not signed on to ending in-state tuition. So it's going to be interesting to see, does the Senate run against the House? in the primaries next year. And if it does, we may get a resolution on some of these issues. If not, we're going to have to keep chipping away over time. We'll see how that plays out.
Matt, what can people find on your website, mustreadtexas.com, this morning?
Yep. Again, lots of coverage of 2016 candidates. There's a good profile of Ted Cruz's campaign manager, Jeff Rowe, from the Houston Chronicle, which is on our site. A lot of news from Governor Perry as well. He was in South Carolina over the weekend along with Senator Cruz. And as you said, 26 days left of this legislative session. So we've got all the news at mustreadtexas.com.
All right. As always, Matt, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great week.
Matt Mackowiak, you can follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak.